Hello everyone. Today we are gonna discuss about the exam topics of Cloud Practitioner examination. These notes are prepared by me while studying and preparing for the examination, and I hope sharing this information will be helpful for you guys if you are planning to give this examination as well. Okay, let's. I'm not going to talk about detail in this topic because there are a lot of notes. So I'm going to make it simple by just reading out the notes and just reading out the materials that I have listed as a notes. Okay, so let's start with total cost of ownership. So this is the exam topic which will come which scenario is useful to make the least cost of ownership, or which will help in total cost of ownership. So there's basically these items that I have listed, which is most important part of the exam. So you need to invest in large capital expenditure to reduce total cost of ownership. You need to only pay for running servers. Consideration for migrating servers. That means if you want to migrate server to AWS, thinking in mind that only you are only paying for the running servers. And there's another thing, that there's the ability to pay as you go, right? You only pay for running servers, as well as there is no upfront cost. So there's pay as you go model. Now there's another thing, that's manage AWS organizations and cost explorer. It also helps in forecasting your cost in certain month, or in evaluating how much cost you had incurred in past month. So there's TCO calculator, which helps you to calculate the opportunity cost, which helps to calculate what which might be beneficial. So moving on to the ODS database might be beneficial compared to your server or not. So it helps in calculating the real-time scenario. Now there's manage marketplace, which enables customers to find, buy, and immediately start software solution in their AWS environment. And we have support plans. So there are basically 4 support plans. They are basic, developer, business, and enterprise. And we have trusted advisor, which is like your customized cloud expert. AWS Trusted Advisor analyzes your AWS environment and provides best recommendation. It is a real-time guidance to help you provision your resources following the AWS best practices. Trusted Advisor is AWS service which can assist you with cost optimization, fault tolerance, service limits, performance, as well as security. So you have database migration system. It helps to migrate database from your server to AWS. Okay, and there's relational database service, which is also known as RDS. So it gives you option of MySQL, PostgreSQL, and Microsoft SQL Server, as well as Oracle. And you have DynamoDB, which is NoSQL for non-relational database, serverless and fully managed. And you have this Amazon Redshift, which is a data warehouse. And talking about the security, there's DDoS prevention. So you can do DDoS prevention by AWS WAF, which is Web Application Firewall, or AWS Shield, CloudFront, and Load Balancer. Okay, and the penetration testing also helps in security, but for that you need to get the permission from AWS first, and it can be done on your infrastructure only. So talking about this cloud trial, it records events within region in AWS, can identify the user that made the API call when Amazon EC2 was terminated. It helps in governance, compliance, and risk auditing in AWS. There's acceptable use policy, which describes the prohibited actions. And you have CloudFront, which uses AWS edge location for content caching, helps in streaming the content in an efficient manner across the globe. Example, deploying of video-based application across the globe. Now you have edge location, which helps to distribute contents to the user, cache common responses, used in conjunction with CloudFront services, but doesn't distribute load across multiple resources. Okay, now I'm going to discuss the key points and the options which you need to select, which helps you to remember, like which one is the suitable option that you should select here coming to the examination. So, designed for failure and nothing will fail. It's deployment of an application in multiple availability zone. Benefit of running an application across two availability zone: increases the availability of an application. Web-based user interface. It's AWS Management Console. Forecast AWS spending. It's AWS Cost Explorer. If 90 to 100% utilization of EC2 instance is made over a year and you want to save cost, then you need to choose reserved instance. To secure your EC2 instance, you need to consider two things. That's usage of security group, usage of network access control list, which is also known as NACL. And import data into Amazon. Okay, when you want to import data into Amazon Glacier, you have AWS Glacier API, AWS Glacier SDK, and you can also do this by AWS S3 lifecycle policies, but note you cannot do it by AWS console. So there's access of support concerns. So this can be done by enterprise. As we discussed earlier, there was developer, basic, enterprise, and for this access of support concerns, the best option for you is enterprise. Note, AWS is a cloud service provider that doesn't directly store, transmit, or process any customer cardholder data. However, AWS customers may create their own card data environment that can store, transmit, or process cardholder data using AWS products. If database is going to be used for a minimum of a year, then it is better to get reserved instances. You can save on cost if you use a partial upfront options. You can get better discount. Sorry. So to deploy an application that needs to be PCI compliant, you need to choose AWS service which are PCI compliant and ensure the right steps are taken during application development for PCI compliant. So feature of RDS that allows for data redundancy across region. It's creating a read-lib replicas which ensures data is replicated to another region, and host self-managed database in AWS. It's hosting a database in EC2 instance. So hosting a self-managed database in AWS means hosting a database in EC2 instance, which means you want complete control over the database engine and underlying infrastructure. Compatible MySQL database, which has the ability to grow in storage size on its own. It's Aurora, which is fully managed MySQL, PostgreSQL compatible relational database engine. And you have elasticity, which is ability of an application to scale up and scale down. So it means diversifying traffic to instance based on demand, as well as diversifying traffic to instance with least load. And you have another thing called link account, which you can do by consolidated billing and managing AWS organizations. For DDoS protection, always note AWS Shield and CloudFront. And AWS Shield Advanced also helps in better protection for the DDoS attack. SQS, it helps in decoupling resources hosted on cloud. It offers a reliable, highly scalable hosted queue for storing masses as they travel between applications. Disaster recovery, go to Route 53 section. Manage infrastructure as a code, AWS CloudFormation. So disaster recovery, so these 4 things I have listed on order. So the first one is backup and restore, which has highest downtime. So there's a pilot light, which describes a DR scenario in which a minimal version of environment is always running in the cloud. And there is warm standby, and at last we have multi-site, which has least downtime. Okay, now for jobs that can be interrupted and resumed at any times, so there's spot for periodically processing large volumes of data. Okay, so this thing you need to take in mind. So for periodically processing large volumes of data, you should use spot. Okay, spot instances are a cost-effective choice if you can be flexible about when your application runs and if your application can be interrupted. And it's well suited for data analysis, batch jobs, optional tags, and background processing. Elastic Beanstalk allows developers to easily deploy and manage applications in the cloud. It is easy to use service for deploying and scaling web application and service developed with Java, .NET, PHP, Node.js, Python, Ruby, Go, and Docker with familiar servers such as Apache, Nginx, Passenger, and IIS. And you have CloudFront, which is a content delivery service using global network of edge location. And AWS Direct Connect, it is easy to establish network connection from your premise to AWS. You can establish private connection between AWS and your data center. You can connect VPC to remote network by using VPN connection. You can connect your VPC to remote network by using VPN connection. EC2, it's a secure resizable compute capacity equivalent to hosting virtual server on on-premise location. It allows customer to retain full administrative privileges on underlying virtual infrastructure. For prevention of DDoS attack from EC2, use NACL and use security groups. AMI, you can launch as many instances from AMI. It's virtual server in a cloud. You can spin up EC2 instance on AWS cloud. AWS console cannot be used to upload data into Glacier. The console can be used to create Glacier Vault, which can be used to upload the data. Option of lifecycle policies that can be used to move objects to archive storage. It's Amazon S3. Feature of Amazon RDS for better availability of database. It's multi-availability zone and read replica for better availability of database. Transfer petabyte of data from on-premise to AWS cloud. AWS Snowball is the better option. Auto scaling, Scaling up resources on demand helps to base the number of resources on the demand of application or user. To prevent data loss, EBS volumes replicates in same availability zone. IAM roles secure communication between EC2 instance and ES3. An application deployed on EC2 instance to write data to ES3 in a secure manner. AWS Inspector. It analyzes EC2 instance against predefined security templates to check for vulnerabilities. And you have EMR, Elastic Map Reduce, which is Hadoop version of this AWS, is a offhand large number of datasets to be processed. So, principle designing cloud-based system. Assume everything will fail. Build loosely coupled components. That means if one component does fail, the entire system doesn't fail. Amount of storage that can be stored in ES3. That's virtually unlimited storage, unlimited amount of data, but max size of ES3 objects is 5 terabyte and maximum buckets is 100. Okay. AWS config. AWS config is a service that enables you to access, audit, and evaluate the configuration of your AWS resources. Config continuously monitors and records your AWS resources configurations and allows you to automate the evaluation of recorded configuration against desired configuration. Okay. If application is critical and must be global available at all times, it must be deployed to multiple regions which also helps in prevention of disaster recovery. And you have AWS Shield Advanced, which helps for higher level of protection, which also provides expanded DDoS attack protection. Okay. Allows you to carve out a portion of AWS cloud. It's AWS VPC, virtual private cloud. It's a network that you would operate in your own data center with the benefit of using scalable. Fast, easy, and secure transfer from client to ES3 bucket. Use ES3 transfer acceleration. EC2 costing determination. That's instance type, AMI type, and region. Amazon Glacier. It is infrequently accessed data and it's a data archives. An availability zone is isolated location within AWS region. An edge location will deliver cached content to the closest location to reduce latency. You might set up NACL with rules similar to your security groups in order to add an additional layer of security in your VPC. NACL is a feature associated with a subnet in VPC to protect against incoming traffic request. Document that provides a formal statement of one or more permissions. That's policy. Document that provides a formal statement of one or more permissions. It's policy, which contains resource, action, effect, and principle. It is a JSON document that specifies what user can do on AWS. Then we have security group, which acts as a firewall that controls the traffic allowed to reach one or more instances. When you launch a VPC, you can assign the instance up to 5 security groups. Users can only SSH into EC2 instances that are attached to security group. When you think of cost effectiveness, you can either have to choose spot or reserved instances. Now when you have regular processing job, the best is spot instance. Amazon Elastic Cache. It helps to improve the response time. It's web service that makes it easy to deploy, operate and scale an in-memory data store or cache in cloud. Two-tier architecture. What do you mean by two-tier architecture? The one is interface that runs on a client, and the other is data layer or data structure that gets stored in a server. To run secondary RDS, if primary fails, you need to deploy AWS multi-availability zone. In case of an infrastructure failure, Amazon RDS performs an automatic failover to the standby or read replica in case of Amazon Aurora. So you can resume database operation as soon as the failover is complete. Right? In case of infrastructure failover, this Amazon RDS performs an automatic failover to standby or to read replica in case of Amazon Aurora, so you can resume database operation as soon as the failover is complete. And you have CloudWatch logs, which means aggregate logs within the EC2 instance. Okay, so S3 costs is based on the total size of GB of all objects stored. The total storage class used for objects stored. But the cost doesn't depend on number of buckets. Okay, to provide connection from on-premise infrastructure to resource hosted in AWS cloud, use AWS Direct Connect and use AWS VPN. Snapshot is equivalent to AMI. You can launch as many instances from AMI as you need. Secure way of using AWS API to call AWS services from EC2 instances. Go to IAM roles. Host self-managed database in AWS using database on EC2 instance. Responsibility of customers when ensuring the data on EBS volume is left safe. Creating EBS snapshots. CloudWatch is a monitoring service. It helps to collect and track matrices, collect and monitor log files, set alarms, and automatically react to changes in your AWS resources. So application that must be globally available all the times. So it can be done by deployment of the application to multiple regions, which is also known as geographic locations. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, hope I made little concepts clear about this CloudFormation exam topics. Okay, thank you.